surprises.
How's everyone doing? Can everyone hear us? How's the audio?
Live, hey? Are we live, Doug?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep, we're live.
Right on.
Might be a bit of a lag, but if anyone's tuning in, just let us know if you can hear us.
Doing a little mic check to get started. Make sure everyone can hear us loud and clear.
Hey, Kai.
Cool, we got Kai in the comment section.
Hey, Kai, can you hear us?
Hopefully we got the mic working. Get confirmation from anyone in the comment section that we're loud.
Bjorn says bunny hop.
Bjorn's in there. I mean, if no one's writing in the comments that they can't hear anything, then I think we should be pretty much
Kai
good to
says
go.
Sound is good.
Cool, awesome, great.
Kai says loud and clear, loud.
Beautiful.
Great. Seems like there's a bit of a lag.
Cool.
30-second lag. But
Yeah, of course.
apparently the sound is good.
Right on. Well, yeah, we're gonna jump right to it.
Awesome, David, Hooley, they're all saying sound is great. Stephanie.
Right on. Well, quick intros here. My name's Ryan Leach, and yeah, thanks for tuning in. We've got Doug on the camera. He'll be reading all of your comments, and he'll be sharing with me your questions, and just a quick sort of outline of what's coming up, and to kind of set the context. I'll be presenting bunny hop coaching within the context of two things. One, my bunny hop masterclass on Ryan Leach Connection, and also to bring in the 5-week bunny hop challenge, which is well underway in the RLC community. So, you know, I'm presenting this information on the knowledge that those I'm sharing to are familiar with the overall sort of trajectory of the course. And, you know, for those that aren't engaged in the course, you know, of course, you're welcome to tune in, and there's going to be lots of information that I share with you today. And so, yeah, there's some real key stuff that I'm excited to share. Yeah, just, you know, as people are sort of starting to tune in and come on, you know, we'll wait for a few more people, wait a few more minutes. But yeah, just, you know, the bike, you know, people are always kind of curious about equipment. You know, today I'm on my trail bike. This is a Norco Optic, and 140 millimeters up front, 125 in the back. I've kind of built it up custom. It's got a coil shock, which is a little bit different than the normal spec for this bike. I really enjoy the feel of the coil. I'm running fully open, my suspension today, and you know, that's a big thing for bunny hops. 29-inch wheels for this bike, and saddles down. I've got a little extra air in my rear tire. You know, for bunny hops, that's always a little bit nice to have a little more stable platform. I've already got to overcome the suspension in the rear for the bunny hops, so having a little firmer tire is nice. Yeah, just, you know, again, just kind of wasting time here before I get into the coaching. You know, it's interesting, bunny hops, there's so much torque going on with bunny hops. Like, there's so much power, and this is a new bike. I built it up, you know, a few weeks ago, and the first ride I did, I rode all the way up the trail, great climb, and blasted down some steep trails, some fast corners, some, you know, bumps and whoops and some rough terrain. And then closer to the bottom, I started to get playful, and I did a bunny hop, and I was like, first off, my grip twisted. I was like, oh, I guess I gotta tighten my grip. I'd made it through the whole ride, and then I did one bunny hop, and boom, I felt the grip kind of twist on the handlebar. So that, that kind of demonstrates that, you can blast a lot of mountain bike trail and not put as much sort of torque through the bars as with a bunny hop. And then I kept being playful, and my lever, I noticed my lever twisted down. It spun on the bar as well, my brake lever. And that's an interesting topic as well. A lot of riders like to have, it's pretty common to have the brake lever sort of up a little bit, a little more towards horizontal, whereas trials riders, which is my background, generally like to have them down a little bit, just because, when you're doing the bunny hop, there is torque even on your finger on the brake lever, and so often, that's another sign, again, of sort of the torque and power going into the bunny hop, is that even your brake levers take a little bit of pressure downwards. So it's kind of an interesting little tidbit I thought I'd throw in there. So I got my little cheat sheet. There's tons of information that I'm going to be sharing, so this kind of helps me track it. The 5-week challenge, super stoked that there's so much engagement in this challenge. And, it's 5 weeks for a reason, because bunny hops, because of that torque, there's a lot of muscles required to perform a bunny hop. It's hard on the body. Like, if you're not conditioned, for me, if I'm not conditioned, my neck will get sore, my shoulders, my arms, definitely through the front part of the bicep, the shoulders, backs of the shoulders. My back can take a little bit of a beating if I'm not conditioned. And so, gradual conditioning goes along throughout these 5 weeks. And along with that conditioning, you're doing shorter practices more regularly. There's a lot more power in, say, doing 3 20-minute practices versus 1 hour-long practice, because not only is there time for the muscles to repair and strengthen in those breaks between practices over days and weeks, but it allows your body to integrate the practice. It allows, like, on a level, there's this integration happening, like in the back of your mind, things are getting worked out, you're thinking about it in between practice sessions, and you've got time to refer to the lessons and the coaching as well. And I wanted to actually talk about that as well, because, here I'm presenting a lot of information to you today in this webinar, and on RLC, all the lessons in the bunny hop masterclass, there's a lot of information there. And so, that's kind of the outer coaching realm where information is coming to you and you're following those guidelines as you practice. But I just want to really acknowledge the inner coaching required for skills like the bunny hop that require time to develop. And that's something I really want to encourage you to trust, right? So there is hopefully going to be understanding that you get from today's session, like a little aha, or, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh, that was the missing piece that I needed, right? So there's information, and there's going to be drills I present today as well that you can work through. The thing is, though, that's like outer coaching, and when there's repetitive practice, when you're trying something over and over and over, words can mess you up if you get too over analytical. It becomes important to go to the inner coaching, to the feeling, right? So when you're practicing something over and over and over, there are subtle feelings that you get that, oh, that felt right, or, oh, that felt wrong, and then, oh, that felt right. And then you're tuning into those little subtle cues of yes, no, right? And then you're trying to repeat that feeling. And it's not necessarily going to words and instruction during all these repetitions, but instead you're going towards the feeling of, yes, that felt right. I'm going to try to repeat that feeling, right? And so I just wanted to bring that up just because, you know, there is so much practice going on. The amount of comments and questions that are coming through this 5-week bunny hop challenge is incredible and it's awesome. But I just wanted to acknowledge not to forget about the inner coaching, that inner wisdom, that inner, yes, this feels right, no, that feels wrong, and sort of going with those subtle cues in the midst of all the repetition. So yeah, I'm just going to kind of leave it at there, check my notes. Let me know in the comment section if that makes sense and that resonates. Just, you know, just because, you know, I'm going to get into a bunch of information here. And I just wanted to set that stage.
Yeah, why doesn't everyone say hello and where they're tuning in from?
Yeah, a little break here to check in with everyone.
Say hello. We got Francisco from Spain, Pedro from Spain, Doug from Colorado.
Whoa, cool.
From Denmark.
Denmark.
And Joseph wanted a quick clarification.
Cool.
Fully open is recommended for bunny hop?
You know, in terms of, I like to do my skills practice with my bike set up how it would be on the trail, because most people are practicing within the RLC community and realm for improving their trail riding. Yet a lot of the practice is done in a parking lot or on the grass field. And so if you have your bike set up similarly to how you'd have it set up when you're actually trail riding and when you're actually going to be using the skills, you know, that's a great way to sort of help bridge the gap between practice sessions and out on the trail. You know, there is a lot to be said about learning to bunny hop or bunny hopping on like a hardtail. It doesn't necessarily mean the learning curve will be quicker, but you know, it's the ease of bunny hopping a hardtail, fully rigid bike is, it feels easier than a fully open dual suspension bike. But that said, you don't need a hardtail to learn the bunny hop. So yeah, just it's a good clarification. So,
yeah, lots of people here. I think they're ready to learn.
Cool.
Thomas from Germany, Jed from Colorado.
Right on. Hey, Jed, Thomas, Mike from Switzerland. Cool.
Yeah.
Beauty. Yeah, international crew and crowd. Right on. All right, so a big part of the inspiration for this live webinar comes from recognizing some stuck points that students find in the bunny hop masterclass. So last fall, 2 of RLC's coaches, Griff Wigley and Jeff Knightlick, so they've been so tuned to the comments. They've been incredible at responding to everyone, and they had recognized this point in the progression where a lot of people were getting stuck. And so we had this big discussion and brainstormed and came up with a series of drills to add in to that challenge. And they're not live yet. I've been pretty preoccupied working on the Beginner's Blast-Off course, which is going to be launched this spring. And it's a pretty epic course. It's a huge course. So that's kind of been the main focus. But I wanted to get this live webinar out to get these new drills and share them with you for those that are stuck in that position. And padding these drills that I'm going to introduce, there's a few other key kind of topics that I've noticed are common that I'm going to address. And then once that's done, I'm going to open it up to Q&A for any and all bunny hop related questions that you might have. So that said, the stuck point generally is happening between the 1-2 drill and the bunny flop. So I'll just kind of demonstrate. So the 1-2 is basically the small manual front wheel lift and a rear wheel lift. So this is basically the 1-2. So everyone in that drill is learning the 1 and then the 2, 1, 2. And the idea is to sort of tighten up that sequence of 1, 2 to 1, 2, really trying to get it a little quicker. And then the next drill goes to the bunny flop. And it's a big leap. It's a big leap to go from 1, 2, where you've got one wheel and all your weight on the ground at any one moment, to the bunny flop where both wheels need to be off the ground. So that's it's a pretty big leap for a lot of students. There's a lot of challenge. So the bunny flop is one of those. Getting up and generally landing the front wheel first is kind of the flopping kind of motion. So here is the filler in between those two drills or two lessons in the course. So the first step is to get a classic hop. This is going to be a prerequisite. It's something I cover in baseline balance skills, is the hop or hopping. And so this is a rolling hop or a level lift where both tires come off the ground at the same time. And this is generally a much more accessible skill for the bulk of riders. It's something most riders can accomplish with some focused practice. For a lot of you tuning in, this is pretty basic, but I just wanted to cover it. I'll just show the level lift. And it requires a strong load, or what's often called a stomp, right? So that's the first, a nice even load of the tires and the suspension, solid load downward, followed by an unload motion, which often happens automatically with a solid load, allowing the bike to come up underneath you. So it can start small, like there's a little bit of, even with that solid load, that solid stomp, strong through the quads at the bottom, so you get that hard stop. And then the subtle unload, there's that looseness. You're staying connected to the bike through your ankles. There's movement there, so as it comes up, the bike can unload and get light. So load, unload, and that's the start of the level lift. And you amplify that more and more until you start to get a little more height, a little more pop. There's the continued ankle motion, and you can start to pull the bike up a little bit underneath you to gain a little more height. So adding some dynamism to that hop, to that level lift. And the goal here in this new drill is not to get a ton of height, although that is possible with the level lift. That's not the purpose, but the purpose is to feel, oh, cool, yes, I can get both my tires off the ground. You're airborne, right? So that's a distinct skill and a step in this progression. Cool, so that's one. And again, these new steps will be created into lessons in the course later this spring, summer. So the next step is to get a clear distinction between a classic front wheel lift and a mini manual front wheel lift. And the idea here for this phase, we're not looking for a high front wheel lift, just a small one. But the key is to make sure it is a manual style front wheel lift. And so we've covered this already in the beginning of the course, manual front wheel lifts, but there's just a kind of a clarification step here to make sure everyone's on the right track. And again, not looking for height. So classic front wheel lift, we're lifting, the arms are bending as we're bringing the front wheel up, whereas a manual lift, it's actually the arms are straightening. So watch my arms as the first distinction. Classic front wheel lift and a manual front wheel lift. And it's just small. It's just a small one. I'm not asking for a full, like a full manual front wheel lift would look more like this. There's a lot of back and forth horizontal movement. You know, that's not what I'm after here, not yet. So you're actually not just a small manual front wheel lift. Small is really the key, a mini manual. So just to really make this clear, make sure it's small mini manual and not a lift like that. So that's the next ingredient. And now we're going to work towards a little bit of a pattern, mini manual front wheel lift, and then a hop. So that drill, you just starting to get comfortable. Mini hop, mini manual hop. You know, two distinct movements, but just kind of starting to get it into your being, right? Mini manual hop, mini manual hop, mini manual hop. Nice. They're two distinct movements. Now we have to blend them, right? So boom, you can do the mini manual. Boom, you can do the hop. Now we blend them together. And there's a lot of the, and this goes for many skills, there's a lot of, you know, in RLC I teach distinct movements, and there's often times where they need to be blended together, right? And so this blend, you can kind of play a bit of a trick in your mind to blend movements like this together. You kind of trick yourself into doing the key one. So for this one, sort of tricking yourself into doing both at the same. It's like you're not trying to do either, but you're trying to do both. There's like this blending. There's like a little bit of kind of funky trickery in your head. I don't know if that makes sense. It's hard to describe, actually. It just kind of came to mind right now, but it's something that I often do myself, and I remember doing that during the learning curve. It's like I'm kind of suspending the thought, oh, two distinct skills, and I haven't done it yet, but there's this kind of blending as I'm doing it. I'm going to work on some better words for that, but here's what it starts to look like when you combine it. So we're not doing this big horizontal movement with our body, but when you watch, you can see there's a distinct straightening of the arms along with the hop. Watch closely again here. So if anything, resort to the hop. Like the hop almost has more weight than the mini manual. The hop is quite a distinct movement. And those are the two ingredients. If you watch close, you'll see that the front wheel comes off the ground just a little bit ahead of the rear wheel. And that's the goal in the blend here. Just show you once more. And the tricky thing is that you can accomplish this same thing with a classic front wheel lift. You can hop and then do the lift with the arms to force the front wheel to come up first. And that looks, it's not what we're going for, but it is possible, right? So that's like, it kind of looks the same, but it's very different, right? It's very different. I hope that distinction is making sense. You may need to watch the replay of the webinar to kind of to really get that distinction, but it's an important one. So I'm going to just kind of pause there before I move on to the next phase. Just check in with everyone, see how this is digesting for you. Check my notes, make sure I haven't missed anything in that sequence. Cool, cool. Yeah, awesome. I've got more to come, but I just want to check in with you guys. So Doug will let me know if there's any kind of comments coming in or flowing in.
Jason says he thinks blending is the perfect word.
Mm-hmm.
And he says that's what finally got him past the 1-2.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Flop, yeah.
Yeah, great, great. Yeah, I mean, there's a similar blending for the 1-2 to the bunny flop, but this new addition is a new kind of blending, and it's an important one. It's a nice, it's a much more gradual journey to experience both tires being airborne, but still maintaining that proper form, because sort of the next part is to start to see if you can expand the length of time between that mini manual front wheel coming off the ground and the rear wheel coming off the ground. So that starts to be, there we go, the hop, mini manual hop. You know, both tires are coming off the ground fairly similar, but you start to try to extend that time between the front wheel coming off and the rear wheel. And one of the key ways you can really tell is that you start to feel more of a load of your weight through the rear wheel before you finish the hop, right? There's a little more of a load through the rear wheel. So, and then this links to the next drill in the course. Which is bump it up. That's the next drill, and then there's going to be a step after this as well. So the bump it up drill requires you to have a speed bump. For me, I've got this nice edge here. I kind of like my favorite direction is this way. It's quite small, but it's enough to help me start to feel the distinction between front up and rear wheel up. And so one of the things I just really wanted to add to this drill that's in the course is the recognition of timing, and that's based on speed, right? Timing and speed. And then the third variable is the amount of dynamism, the amount of effort you use to get the bike in the air, your own muscle energy versus sort of the bouncing energy that you get from this bump. And so I'd like to suggest coming at the bump with higher speed at first, because when you come at a faster speed, the time between front coming up and rear coming up is, of course, then much quicker, and it matches more towards what we were just doing, the previous drill, the mini manual with a hop, right? And so, of course, this is all experimentation. It's part of your own sort of playful exploration of learning when you find the speed bump to experiment with speed. So I'm going to just show you a couple times and talk through it. I'm going to come a little bit quicker, and I'm going to still do that sort of mini manual and hop and see how it feels on the square edge. And I can go both ways for this. Go a little bit quicker here. starting to keel, kind of starting to get the timing of my movement with it. It takes some time to really start to get to utilize that bump and blend it with your own muscular energy. One more here, and then I want to add something. So if I go slow on this, can start to slow it down. I'll just go a little extra slow with more my rear wheel didn't even reach the bump there. So because the rear wheel didn't reach, I have to, it sort of forces when you go slower, it's sort of like when you go slow, it accentuates just how long it is before your rear tire hits the edge, right? And so that requires a much more extreme manual front wheel lift to regular kind of bunny hop motion, which I'll get into that more extreme motion, that more horizontal movement required to generate the extra height in a few moments. But yeah, I just wanted to really encourage everyone to play around with speed, to really try to work on your timing, because on the trail, obviously, we're going to be needing to see an obstacle and time our bunny hop to either integrate with it or to clear it. And that's the cool thing about bunny hops is, you know, we're learning this movement. The key is the movement, and the application is done in so many different ways on the trail. Once you have the movement, then you can expand this movement in all sorts of different ways to create a whole new world out on the trail, right? It's like, it's unbelievable. Once you have that movement, you know, that's why I'm so excited about, you know, this focused 5-week challenge, is because people are really starting to get that movement in their head, repetitive practice, working through the challenges, getting stuck, asking the coaches for feedback, sending in the videos, and, you know, they're working this movement into their whole body, and then on the trail, it opens up, right? You're using this bunny hop motion to get a little more pop on a jump, or to boost off a route, or to clear, you know, you just try to clear a puddle completely. You know, there's all sorts of little transfers you can do, just like to, go to this part of the trail, or, you know, from one side of a rut to the other side of the rut. You know, you name it, this movement is integrated into all the little undulations, and, like, you know, you can pre-bunny hop into a little downhill section, and that kind of gives you a boost to speed, and, you know, the style and movement and just the aliveness that this core movement that we're practicing in these drills is, I mean, yeah, it's a phenomenal thing to invest time in. So yeah, so super stoked that you guys are all keen and interested and following along. And so yeah, I want to get to your questions, but the next thing I just wanted to talk about was, from this Bump It Up, the trajectory in the course goes towards the bunny flop, right? So that's kind of basically, the bunny flop is asking you to start to add more dynamism to the movement, and it gets a little more into that a little more distinct manual front wheel lift, which requires you to have more loading of the rear wheel, more weight rearward, more hip movement rearward before you come up and bring it forward. The nice thing about the bunny flop is most people in the learning curve end up bunny flopping because it is a safer feeling than trying to do the bunny hop where you land both wheels at the same time, let alone having the control to land, you know, rear wheel first in certain situations. The bunny flop is, it doesn't, you don't have to do the extreme kind of sucking up with your body to maintain the front wheel height. Maintaining the front wheel as the rear wheel comes up and then down together is much more challenging than front wheel up and then just allowing it to nosedive back down. So it's just a little bit more natural. I'll just do a bunny flop here. You know, again, it's like all these things, we're starting slow and small, but you know, this bunny flop allows you to start to get that motion. You can start to explore adding more energy, right? You can get that more energy. You can see as I do this, there's not a lot of horizontal. I'm getting horizontal here, but I can sort of bronco up that rear wheel with the hop. And that it allows me to not risk sort of that extra move of basically it's it's not only the hip to handlebar movement, but more importantly it's the flattening out after. And that's the next topic that I want to get into actually. So so I'll just do a quick check-in with everyone before I move to that. And that's kind of this next topic of gaining that extra height, flattening out the bike for a two-wheeled landing is the next topic. But just wanted to check in with everyone. How's everyone doing? Everyone storing some good questions, I hope, for when we open it up to Q&A. I'm sure there's a few things coming to mind for a lot of you as I talk through all of this. You know, again, it's a lot of information, a lot of steps. And so, yeah, what's up, Doug? You seeing anything? Any action there?
We have some previous questions. So one question is, in slow motion bunny hops, I see a brief mini manual motion to start front wheel lift. Then it seems to be from explosively extending legs, pulling hands to hips. I don't really hear this being talked about.
Sure. And that, you know, I talk about that quite a lot in the course, in the Bunny Hop Masterclass. And you know, just a distinction, you see the hands coming to the hips. I actually make quite a distinction there's two lessons called the hips to the bars, because that generally is the direction. That's kind of, rather than pulling bars to the hips, it's the hips actually moving towards the bars, because as you said, there's that manual beginning, and that sends the hips back a little lower and down. And so this is really a nice intro into what I wanted to talk about, because yeah, a lot of riders, they want to get a little more height, right? And so one question is, okay, well, yeah, the straightening of the legs, when and how, you know, that often, like, when does that happen? And so the start to this is a new distinction. There's a big difference between a manual front wheel lift for a manual and a manual front wheel lift for a bunny hop. There's a big difference. And I'll just show you, I'll just kind of demonstrate. You can kind of watch my legs more specifically here. You know, popping here for a solid manual, right? So that manual, I'm popping up, my legs straighten, and my weight stays back and down. Right, that initial burst, you can see I've extended my legs to help the front wheel up, right? And so now watch my legs as I bunny hop. There's an extension, there's like that initial manual impulse, but my hips back and down, it's momentary, like just to get that initial pulse of the front wheel coming up. Then right away, in the same motion, in a blended motion, I'm already bringing my hips towards my hands as my legs straighten out. So there's a lot there I just said. You know, I know it's a lot to hold. It's a really important thing to think through and work through. Watch some videos, go to the course, watch it in slow-mo, trying to get that clear in your head, that distinction between a manual for a manual and a manual for a bunny hop. And so the moment the legs are straight, the front wheel is up, and the hips have come to the bars, this is the moment that I want to talk about. So it's that hip to hands moment. What happens then? What happens once the hips are to the bars, right? So let's go to the bunny hop bar actually. Might as well have a bit of a target here. So the hips to the bars. So this is this horizontal action, right? That's everything to get that crisp bunny hop with height in a trustable way. Most riders, they're getting the first part pretty well, right? They're starting to get pretty good height, hips, you know, decent front wheel manual height, decent action, hips to bars, but it still kind of ends in a flop, and they still kind of max out the amount of height they can get. I'll kind of see if I can sort of demonstrate something I see quite a lot in the practice videos that students submit. Watch specifically more my hip location as I go over the bar. So watch that again. Watch where my hips go or don't go specifically. They get a great first part, but the second part is where it's lacking. So that's what I'm seeing students do. And don't get me wrong, this is quite an advanced point that I see students get to. But watch now. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to clear the same height, but it's a different experience. Like, it's a different skill when you get what I'm going to explain in a moment here. Again, keeping an eye on where my hips go at the top. So let me just I'll do one more. I just want you to comment. Let me know if you're seeing this distinction. I'll do one more how it's ought to be. Here we go. So you seeing anyone comment there about what they're noticing?
Yeah, and let's just do a mic check for me too. People are saying they can't hear me.
Okay.
I turned up the volume.
Oh yeah, sometimes the volume should be set. It might be just, that doesn't look like it's even on. The blue light should be on. Do you see the blue light on mine? Little tech break here while you...
I see the blue light on mine.
Yeah,
I turned it up, so can...
Here, now it's on. You had it turned off, so that's
off.
now turned on. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, let me just see if, do you see any comments coming in there, Doug?
Yep, let's just double this. So is anyone seeing any difference with Ryan's hips between the first two variations of that jump? Ted says much more dynamic body motion.
Much more dynamic, yeah. The hips, the big thing is I'm clearing the first two that I see students do. Their hips pretty much remain over top of the saddle. The hips aren't getting rearward enough, right? In the last two that I did, there was this far more movement of the hips rearward as I flatten out my body. The interesting thing is that it takes, you know, I'm off the ground for the same amount of time, right? But my range of motion is doing a lot more. Like I'm going through a greater range of motion, which makes the whole flattening out process need to happen very quickly. It's very dynamic, it's very quick. And that's where the extra height comes from, that's where the extra control comes from, but it requires, yeah, again, this coordinated sucking up of the legs, right? You know, there's two things, right? One way to describe it is sucking up the legs, which, right, it creates, you're getting that extra height, and then combine that with the hip hinge and the extension of the arms, right? So you're doing this motion, right? The cool thing about this extension is that it also, the arm extension, it helps to accelerate the rear wheel up and clear the obstacle. You're contorting your body, so there's actually this moment of bike acceleration that happens mid-air, which helps your tire clear whatever you're trying to get over. And you know, I haven't made that distinction before. I have talked about bike extension in more basic ways on the RLC library, but you know, that's a really cool thing that's happening that you don't get the benefit of if your hips remain fairly neutral once you've done that initial hips to hands motion, right? So it's really neat. So watch, I'll just raise the height just a little bit here. And I just want to, I just kind of want you to see the distinction again.
Can we add in a question there?
Sorry?
Can we add in a question?
Yeah, sure.
What muscles are you contracting to do that? Is it like abs, hip flexors, shoulder? What muscles are you using when you're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's the hip flexors, right, that are coming. That's where the most of that muscular sort of energy is felt. The hip hinge is there's not, you know, that extension. It's not. That's not where really the power is coming from. It's more you're moving your body through that range as you do that hard suck up with your legs. So that's kind of a brief answer to that. You can get more complex into that. Obviously, there's a lot of muscular action going on, but the main where I feel it the most is that sucking up. You know, definitely kind of hip flexor kind of zone. But yeah, obviously there's that extension, that bike acceleration. So I'll do it. So I'm going to do a proper one here. And once more, just to give you another view of it. And then again, just kind of let me do again what I see a lot of riders doing, just to bring a little contrast. So again, this is what I see a lot of riders doing.
What not to do?
made it. So I'm still clearing the bar, but gosh, two different motions off the ground for the same amount of time, but the amount of movement happening, the amount of range of motion my body is going through is much more, and it's quite quick. So yeah, I mean, this is, yeah, I hope this is landing. Like, there's some really good stuff in sort of some of this new explanation, and I really wanted to get this information to you rather than wait for the polished lessons to be integrated into the bunny hop masterclass. So, so yeah, like I'm excited about all this, as you can see. But obviously, this is part of the picture, and everyone's got their own level that they're at. Everyone's working through sort of their own stuck points, and so you might have a different sort of question. There might be things that I've shared that you don't quite get, or you don't quite understand. So I just wanted to open this up now to Q&A. So any questions you might have, this is your time to fire away. So
yeah, here's one
Doug,
that a few
yeah.
people are interested in. So when you're airborne, is there upward pressure from your hands to keep the bar, you know, when you're accelerating the bike? How much are you using your shoulders?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, we're going from, you know, the classic sort of way to isolate what it feels like in, say, just the hands is to manipulate the bike with just the hands, right? And so as I do this, and you can do this at home as well, just to get a little bit of a felt sense. Obviously, it's more distinct when you've got your whole body off the ground and in this motion. But right, there's this motion going on, right? Like you can see there's multiple stages, right, going on for me to manipulate the handlebar to get the rear wheel off the ground like that. Right? This is what that's the hand motion for the bunny hop, as opposed to, you know, trying to like lift the bike up like that, you know, without the, you know, that's where this horizontal motion and action comes in, right? It just, rather than like, you know, a classic front wheel lift trying to, you know, manipulate the bike, or a level lift, you know, obviously level lift, you know, level lift has, oh, my chain came off in that. So yeah, when you combine that with the flattening out, right? Like, you know, you're pretty scrunched up. Your hips, you know, are clearing the saddle. The saddle's, you know, when I do a high bunny hop, I'll get the saddle kind of smacking me in the low chest, belly area. Like when I'm really maxing out, I'll feel it there. So, yeah, I hope that answers that question. What else is popping for people there, Doug?
One question here, the name's Practice. I've been able to execute the dynamic high bunny hop, but it's hard for me to time it consistently when jumping the bunny hop bar and to knock it down. So do you have any tips on improving timing?
Yeah, it's a good question. Who's asking that?
Well, the name's Practice.
Practice, okay.
So.
Hey, Practice. Good name choice for this webinar. There is certainly there's like a speed component to it. The thing I might suggest is, like, if you found a spot to practice your bunny hop bar to help really notice where you're taking off, like if you had a small little bump, or like even a stick that you can use to mark the ground, for your takeoff, and then you can either move the stick or adjust where the bar location is, and then you've kind of got like this consistent, dependable, okay, yeah, this is where I'm starting, and then you can see how it feels to clear the bar from that starting point, and then you can adjust a little bit back and forth, but at least it kind of takes one variable, because sometimes it's hard when you've just got the bar like this, and you've got it's just all kind of concrete or grass in front of the bar. It's hard to really know exactly where you're taking off, but if you've got like, if there's a little bump that you can kind of feel where your front tire comes off the ground, that takes one variable away. The other is, again, how you're executing that, that second phase of the bunny hop, which I was just kind of talking about as well, because that generates the bike acceleration aspect, which requires, which I guess that bike acceleration sort of enables a little bit more leeway, because you can get a little more, especially when you're going for height, you can get a little more exaggerated with the manual front wheel lift, because you know when the rear wheel comes up, you'll be able to accelerate the rear wheel forward to then clear the bar. It's a little limited if you don't have that horizontal second phase of the hips moving back. I hope that makes sense. I hope that kind of gives you a little something to dig into there. Practice.
Yeah. There's a few people asking about how do you keep your feet on the pedals? Like, how do you not lose the pedals when you're in the air?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is the classic. I mean, really, the bunny hop is the ultimate example of bowl theory. So, you know, if you're an RLC student, there's a number of references on the site about bowl theory, and that is the connection between your hands and your feet, right? There's this tension that's created between the hands and the feet during these dynamic movements. So you know, kind of like I was showing before, one aspect is, you know, if you can keep that, obviously you've got to be, you know, you've got this, you know, your feet are, you're doing this, right? And then you're kind of sucking up, right? So that's happening in this beautiful timing with this motion, right? So just my hands, can get the rear wheel off the ground like this in that motion, and because that motion is multifaceted, I'm timing that with the that jumping up, right? So there's one more thing I want to say about that is there's, you know, your body has a lot of, like, your ankles are huge. You've got all this range of movement in your ankles to help maintain that connection with the pedals. If I'm kind of stiff, if I'm stiff in the ankles and I kind of hop up, then I kind of lose that connection. But if I really work on this, you know, this nice movement in the ankles, and with that movement in the ankles, this is part of the level lift practice, right? This is something that you can really feel in the level lift practice, is that sort of tension, like even just this pressure this way, I can create. There is obviously also the fingers that pull up if you want that extra height, but you know, there's this dance between the the bars and the feet that happen. Lots of ankle movement. So you start to, yeah, really integrate that timing. Cool, I'll just kind of leave that one there. I think I said enough about that question. Cool, hope that answers that.
Cool.
Yeah, anything else? Or are we kind of covering? I mean, I covered so much in the lesson, maybe that answered, I hope that pre-answered a lot of the curiosities that people had. But yeah, just checking in with you guys. Is there anything else that's kind of pop-in curiosities, feedback about this new material? Like, is it resonating, or are you excited? Is it landing?
We're at 60 minutes.
60 minutes already.
There has been a lot of comments about wanting to watch the replay of you jumping the bar.
Oh,
so,
sure. Yeah.
We'll send an email out once that's downloaded and
cool.
And up.
Yeah, the email we'll keep you posted about the replay for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Question from Alexander. He wants to know, what's the mistake when the rear wheel is higher than the front wheel, and how do you avoid landing front wheel first?
Right, sure. So, it's not like the rear wheel. If you do a bunny flop, I mean, it's hard to know exactly what you're asking, Alexander, because it might seem the rear wheel is higher when you bunny flop, because at some point, the height of the front wheel is traded for the height of the back wheel, and then the back wheel kind of feels higher. The second part to that question, I guess generally there's I guess two things, and one is, again, just exploring the your manual. I guess kind of the obvious thing is, okay, well, yeah, just if you're getting lots of pop with the rear wheel, then you can start exploring having a slightly higher front wheel manual in the prep phase to lift off. And then the second part gets to what I was sharing about the bike, the extension of the bike and the sucking up of the legs, right? And so that's the aspect that allows you to keep the front wheel up as you flatten out before dropping both wheels together. The other part of that is, again, it feels safer to bunny flop because again, it's like the hips have to, if your hips kind of stay centered, you're just going to end up bunny flopping from that dynamic manual front wheel lift. If your hip stays centered, even though you're doing the hip to hands motion, you're just going to end up flopping. And the balance of energies asks your body in this motion to really get that flattening out movement, sucking up the legs, extending the bars, hips moving back. It all happens in unison, right? It's all connected, and so it's that move that I think is the crucial aspect that that a lot of students will need to start spending more time exploring.
Might be helpful to get a video too to the coaches for Alexander.
Totally, Alexander.
I think
absolutely.
Everyone here is a member.
Yeah, without seeing your motion, Alexander, for sure, it's hard to critique. But that's why we do the video reviews for everyone on the site. So get that video submitted. We'll be on it. We got a great team of coaches and mentors. They're totally rocking it these days. It's unreal to see the RLC community grow, and the standards that the behind the scenes team, Kai's tuned into this, and Tom, they're monitoring every single comment that comes in, in the Facebook group and on the website, and we're striving to get those responses to you, if not within 24 hours, within 48 is pretty much the max these days that a comment is responded to. Most are within 24 hours, which is pretty cool. So yeah, keep those comments coming in the courses and the lessons. We're there for you.
Great. Lots of questions here. Are you good for more?
Yeah, if there's a few more coming in, yeah, let's keep it going. Happy
awesome. Question here about Ian, from Ian. How to improve timing and snap when you're riding a rigid DMX or dirt jump bike?
Oh, cool. I mean, yeah, man, like the timing and snap on a rigid, I find to be, it's like, it's quick. It's so quick. With a hardtail, like that timing is just so intense. It invites speed, like the timing to get that extra height and lift and that flattening out, that second part. You know, hardtails are like they're wanting speed in the overall movement. You know, I mean, yeah, I love bunny hopping on a hardtail, you know, for that reason, but there's almost a little less forgiveness on a hardtail, even though generally you can create that pop more, you can create the pop more efficiently because you're not having to overcome the rear suspension. The rear suspension it just wants to, it's designed to absorb, and we have to overcome that absorption before we can get that pop with the suspension bike. You know, that's why that stomp, that's why the compression is so important for a high bunny hop on a dually. You can see, like, I've got that solid load, and then that unload all happens, it's drawn out, it's slower. That preload needs to start. It needs a longer period of time, the load-unload phase, compared to a hardtail. The hardtail, it can happen, it's the same movement, but it just happens faster. So anyway, I hope that kind of gets at your question. I'm not sure, but.
One question here about when you're doing the hip hinge in the air.
Yeah.
Does it feel more like you're pushing the bike forward, or does it feel more like you're pushing your body backwards?
You know, I mean, it's both, but I feel the extending the bike forward, that arm action is what feels most prominent. But you need it has to have the counter, the opposite. The opposite has to happen to flatten out the bike, because you can still kind of extend the arms, but if you just do the arm extension, that contributes to the bunny flop motion. It almost like starts to exaggerate that sort of nose down action. So yes, the arm extension is what is a prominent feeling sense, but the snap, you know, you use that word, I find only can occur if you're doing the knees and the hip hinge, right? The sucking up of the knees and the hip hinge, you know, that's the part that gets left behind for most riders. So yeah, great question, and I hope that distinction helps.
Right.
So that's the hard part, that hip hinge and sucking up the legs. That's the hard part. Most people can get that part without the hips going back. They can get that, and then obviously that creates the nose in. So yeah, really great question.
Cool. All right, well, lots of appreciation here, and a lot of people asking for some slow-mo breakdowns after the fact, so
cool.
We'll make note of that and make sure that gets out.
Right on. Yeah, well, you know, big thanks to the RLC team. for making this webinar happen. You know, Doug behind the camera there, he's been busy. He's been busy at it. Let me turn that to him. That's who's been behind the scenes there. And so, yeah, super stoked to have a great team at RLC to make all this happen. And thanks for tuning in. And we'll keep you posted with the replay. Keep an eye on your emails. And over and out on this spring day.